Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. I hope you get humped today. Jeff has once again provided me with a teaching opportunity. Reasonable suspicion requires the officer to articulate certain facts, certain particular facts, that when based on what the officer knows, what the officer observes, what the officer thinks he knows, what the officer thinks he observes, those particular facts that the officer can articulate, combined with the officer's training and the officer's knowledge, would they be enough to convince a judge that the officer had reasonable suspicion? It's a burden of proof. Burden of proof means you have to prove it to the court, or in some cases, you'd have to prove it to a jury. Can anybody, besides the judge who's making the determination on whether or not there was reasonable suspicion, tell you if there was or was not reasonable suspicion? No. Can they tell you if they believe that they have observed facts that, if articulated, could give an officer reasonable suspicion? Yes. If you watch the video, I believe, I'd have to rewatch it to be sure of this, but I believe I said things like the officer could have reasonable suspicion, or the officer might have reasonable suspicion, or the officer may have reasonable suspicion. I believe I used language like that. Why would I use language like that? Because I don't know what the officer is going to testify. I don't know what the officer knew. All I know are the facts that I'm observing from a single viewpoint from Jeff's camera. That's all I know. Those are the only facts that I have. I don't know if the officer ran Jeff's license plate. I don't know if Jeff did something prior to the camera rolling that maybe attracted the officer's attention. There's a lot of things that I don't know. So all I can say is, based on the facts that I observed, based on the video that I watched, I believe an officer could articulate reasonable suspicion. Now, Jeff seems to be of the opinion that you can determine from a video whether or not the officer had reasonable suspicion. And you can't. You absolutely can't. Well, let me rephrase that. It is unlikely that you can. It's very unlikely that you can. Because again, reasonable suspicion is what the officer knows, and you don't know what the officer knows, what the officer's training tells the officer, and you don't know the officer's training, and what the officer has observed or thinks he's observed. So the facts that he knows or thinks he knows, the observation he's made or thinks he's made, and his training. Now, of all of those things, what can an outside third-party observer know? What could a suspect know? Not much. A suspect generally can't know much. He doesn't know what the officer observed or what the officer didn't observe. The suspect might know he didn't commit any crime, but he doesn't know what the officer observed or thinks he observed. He doesn't know what the officer knows or thinks he knows. He doesn't know the officer's training. So you can't know. And again, I just want to remind everybody that officers can make reasonable mistakes of fact and reasonable mistakes of law. They can do both. Supreme Court cases on both of those things. The officer can make a reasonable mistake of fact or a reasonable mistake of law, or both, and still have reasonable suspicion. So, how do you know if an officer has reasonable suspicion? You don't until a judge makes a ruling on it. And remember, let's say the officer goes into the courtroom and testifies about the articulable facts that he knows or thinks he knows to the judge. Does the judge have to believe him? No, the judge doesn't. The judge probably will. In general, the trend is, if I was a betting man, I would bet on the judge believing the officers. Judges tend to believe officers when officers testify because officers don't have a vested interest in it. Like if you go up and testify, I didn't do nothing, well, you have a vested interest in the outcome. The officer doesn't get paid more if you committed a crime or didn't commit a crime. The officer doesn't have any inherent skin in that game. So if the officer says, yeah, I observed him doing X, Y, and Z, the court is probably going to believe him, but the court doesn't have to believe him. So there is literally no way that you can say definitively whether an officer had reasonable articulable suspicion prior to a judge telling you that the guy had reasonable articulable suspicion. You can't know if an officer has probable cause to make an arrest unless and until either the grand jury or the judge comes back and says there's probable cause to make the arrest. You don't know. You can't know. No one knows. I mean, innocent people get charged all the time with crimes. Because all the state's only burden of proof, all they have to show is probable cause to be able to take you through trial. And then the burden of proof at trial is most likely going to be beyond a reasonable doubt if it's a criminal trial, although some parts of a criminal trial may have a clear and convincing evidence standard in there somewhere for some things, but for a determination of guilt, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. So reasonable suspicion is a burden of proof. Burden of proof means it has to get proven in court. Probable cause is a burden of proof. It has to get proved in court. Beyond a reasonable doubt. How do you know if someone has done a crime beyond a reasonable doubt? You don't until the finder of fact, the judge or the jury, comes back and says, yes, beyond a reasonable doubt, they've committed the crime, or no, they haven't committed the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. So anytime someone asks you a question like yes or no, was there reasonable suspicion? The answer is always has to be maybe. Has to be maybe. There's no way around it. Could be, could not be. You could say, I think with the facts that I know, an officer could articulate it, but you don't know. You can't know. You can never know. Anybody who tells you that they know is either lying or ignorant. Which brings me to why I'm making this video. Not just to educate you, but also to educate Jeff Gray. Now, I know he doesn't, at this point, he's made it clear that he doesn't think I know what I'm talking about. Now, he's never actually responded to my question about, why do you say that I don't understand reasonable suspicion and probable cause? He's never responded to that, and that's fine. He doesn't have to. He's a full-grown adult. I still like him. If he comes out to Sacramento, I'd still buy him a beer. I'd buy him a steak, I like the guy. Whether he likes me or not doesn't change that calculus for me. But instead of responding to that, he has now in a new thread, he's now said, yes or no, John, did the officer have reasonable suspicion? I try to explain that you can't know that, and he's not buying it. So I think it's kind of a weird Mott and Bailey, or it's not really shifting the goalposts, but it's like I can't actually show why you were wrong over here. So now we're going to talk about, trying to back you into a corner on reasonable suspicion. And I'm not trying to play games. Like, it's literally an unanswerable question. And until it goes in front of a judge, you're just guessing. Until it goes in front of a judge, you're just guessing. You might have an educated guess. You might just be rolling dice. You might have the legal grasp of a Supreme Court judge. You might have the legal grasp of Eline. You might have the legal grasp of broken system, broken trust. But at the end of the day, even a Supreme Court judge, if put to the test, they'd be like, I don't know. I would be giving you an educated guess, a swag, scientific wild ass guess. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching. I hope that somebody is getting some value out of these, and I'm not just entertaining people. I hope someone's actually picking up some knowledge from this, and I hope that maybe this will keep someone from getting arrested. Maybe help them evaluate their situation a little bit more and understand the precariousness of going out there and doing the things that Jeff does. Jeff's really good at it. He's really good at what he does. That's why he's not in prison. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day.